Hey, I'm Michael Buffington, and welcome back to the Michael Buffington Show. In today's episode, I want to get into the fact that delaying that will really leave you pain. Because I can tell you I've lived this firsthand recently, and this is super, super fresh on my head and on my heart. And I want to share it with you to really try to prevent you from delaying something that you should take action on that will ultimately end up costing you money, time, energy, all kinds of resources, maybe even your sanity if you delay it long enough. And how this all came to fruition, and really the backstory here is me and my bookkeeping and my accounting. Now, here's somebody who coaches people around their finances when it comes to business in the space of chiropractic. And I've coached other businesses from Amazon to trucking companies to title to every business, right? So this is something that lives in a business realm. But even if it's you listening and it's a personal situation, it's going to apply in your personal financial world also. But here's the thing. I'm a guy who's always about knowing your numbers. Know your numbers and staying on track. And I'm a very disciplined guy with my approach. And people that know me know that is true about me. I'm not making that piece up. But here's what occurred. And now part of my role in seeing so many profit and loss sheets for company, for various practices, the guys that I coach, and always doing a profit analysis with them, I have all these numbers around me all the time, and it's great. And tons of metrics and tons of KPIs and OKRs and anything else that you want to use to describe them. They're all there for me. The literal dollars on a sheet of paper that I'm looking at. And what occurred to me is in doing all this, I allowed some of my personal stuff to get away. Now, it wasn't a total I just let it slip my mind. I'm way too disciplined for that. And I've been using these systems for more than a couple decades. So it's not going to get away from me. It's almost like, do you really forget to brush your teeth for a week? And if you do, then I need to refer you to a good dentist. But hopefully that's not the case. And what we're dealing with here is my bookkeeper, who's been with me over 15 years. Great woman, done a great service for me. She comes into the office, at this point has a key, has a security code, has all the stuff. And she's done this for me for years for multiple entities. And it's been fantastic. But over a period of time, through health challenges that she had and different things, we got a little bit disconnected, and it wasn't quite as routine as it had been. And I really, many times it didn't matter if it was this day or that day. We just had a pace on what the monthly reporting was, what the monthly needs were, and even though she was here biweekly, every couple of weeks. So I let that slip, let that slide, because it really wasn't changing the outcome. Then, as I mentioned, with these health challenges, next thing you know, it got a little longer. And as I said, I got my mind focused on some other things. And lo and behold, without even knowing it, which is a little embarrassing to admit, but it's true, is I was several months behind on simple bookkeeping around several businesses. Now, I have so many automations set up. It wasn't like the businesses stopped running. It wasn't like I put myself, in jeopardy. But it was something that I never thought would happen to me. And it's never happened ever in my entire career since 1994. Yet here I was, all this time, all this experience, all these things, and I was in this situation. And not only that, on top of that, I had been having challenges around CPA again that I'd been with, and tax planner that I'd been with for more than a decade. And he's always done a fantastic job. I literally followed him from one firm that got bought out by a bigger national firm. I followed him over to a smaller firm. Great guy, known him for years, done a tremendous job. And the thing is, he wasn't really doing a bad job as far as when it came to planning and those kind of execution. So I wasn't putting me in jeopardy with Uncle Sam or any kind of situation like that. But his responsiveness just started to fall off, and little bitty things started to slip through the cracks, and just really annoyances that were creating some challenges, and really just quite frankly, frustration in me that it wasn't getting handled. Who I'm as the client, I'm having to email repeated times to get an answer, and that was never my experience, and it's also not my standard. So here I was in this situation where I'm behind. And here I am when I'm filming this. I have been behind for a period of time, and now it's taken time. And here's where the delaying came in, and why I kept delaying it in the first place. You may be asking yourself, well, Michael, why didn't you make a change? I've made numerous changes in those areas and many more through my career. Sometimes you will outgrow your tax planner, your CPA, your advisors, etc. And if you don't know that, and if you're listening now and you've been with the same one for like the last decade, there's a good chance, unless your business hasn't changed, there's a good chance that you've outgrown who you work with. I don't know how else to say it other than that, because many times the approach and the strategies and the way that things are done just don't match up. It's literally like, using your junior high coach at a collegiate level. It doesn't mean the coach isn't capable, but in many situations, right, they haven't had the same experiences, so they couldn't lend to that like somebody else could. Now, in my situation, everybody's done a great job until they weren't. And then what I did, believe it or not, and some of you are probably going to be smiling at this and think, is that really true, Buffington, in the way that you operate? I allowed it to go on. I kept making excuses. I was like, well, she's a great person, which is true. Make excuses. He's a great guy and he's done a good job for me. Trying to have a grace-filled approach, and you realize, nobody's perfect. Stuff happens. Life happens for other people too. Maybe it's a situation, etc. Now, the thing is, I actually had that conversation with him and said, hey, you're making it really, really hard for me to continue to work with you because of X, Y, and Z. He received it really well, said, I get it. You're right. I understand. The problem is, then the behavior and the situation didn't change. Now, I don't know what was going on at some level. He confided in me a little bit, but there may have been more to the story. Or sometimes, right, it takes a while for a person to turn life around and to get back on top. However, it doesn't matter ultimately when it starts to impact me, my family, my businesses, the people that we serve. If it begins to impact us negatively, then why would I delay? But that's what I found myself delaying. So doing is delaying. And if some of you out there, I know my chiros always have a big heart, and many times you may make that exception, or maybe it's a patient that actually is providing you a service. So you feel a little, hesitant there because you don't want to end the patient relationship. But if you stop using them professionally, maybe that creates a thing. There's so many different reasons. And a lot of times you're just trying to get along. And I'm hopeful that you will know the line. I pushed the line too far. And the cost to me now has been absolutely stupid. Like, stupid. Not only in the time, the energy, the frustration, and that's been going on for months trying to rectify the situation, and really kind of making some excuses in that, not wanting, there's a part of me that knows it needs to happen. That's easy. There's the part of me that says, hey, you should show them grace, which I believe is true. Then there's this other guy in the middle that's like just gets paralyzed in the process and doesn't do anything, which is also not me. So that feels horrible and starts to layer on a bunch of stories. So here I sit, and here I am with you, admitting that that's where I got myself. And it was from simple delays. I just delayed the decision. There needed to be a clean-cut decision. And here was my lesson in the whole thing. Treat the cause. Now, my chiros right now, you gotta be laughing at that, because it's exactly how we're trained. Is we want to treat the cause. We don't want to treat the symptom. We don't want to treat what people think of, right? When the patient comes in and says, hey, my shoulders bother me, and I'm thinking, is it a shoulder issue? Possibly, but in my career, 8 out of 10 times, it wasn't really a true shoulder issue. It had to do with like a cervical thoracic spine issue that contributed to the mechanics and or the neurology out there that was creating the shoulder symptom. My hands hurt. I've got carpal tunnel when they don't have carpal tunnel, and it's coming from up here. When it's, the pain down the leg. The pain down the leg isn't the problem. What's going on in your lower spine is the problem. So I think at this point you get my drift, but what do we do professionally is we treat the cause. We don't treat the symptoms. Advil treats the symptoms, and it could be good for that. Tylenol treats the symptoms, could be good for that. It's not addressing the cause. May help the fever, may do those things, and don't get me started on that, but it may address that piece, but it's not going to address the illness. Maybe the illness is a result of the microbiome. And many of you out there are much more knowledgeable in that area than I am, but you get the idea. We have to treat the cause. In this case, I kept really dealing with the symptoms, maybe covering them up through some type of process or poor thinking on my part, and I wasn't treating the cause. So, the symptom was the accounting's behind. The symptom is my books were behind. The symptom is my bookkeeper, God love her. I'm actually going to have lunch with her next week while I get the key and everything from her. She would trip the alarm. She would trip the alarm when she came in. It's 60 seconds from the door to the pad. She would trip the alarm. 60 seconds you have to turn the alarm off. She would trip it. I would get calls. I would get calls from the security company. I have even gotten calls from the police and then had to talk to the police on the phone because they're here with her. And this could occur at 10 o'clock at night. This could easily occur on the weekend of all hours. It happened multiple times. Also, getting me locked out of my bank accounts. Like somehow putting the password wrong, whatever going on, get me locked out where I've got to call come Monday, whatever. I've got to call the bank. I've got to get things back logged in and set up for security reasons to make that happen. I mean, these things were just part of the equation that I dealt with. I dealt with hey, I can't do that today. I'm going to need to do that next week. And it would delay. And in essence, I ended up delaying. Same thing. I would take my own emails, put a synopsis of several emails together, or forward and resend to put the question in front of the CPA or the tax planner, again, however you want to refer. He really did both. And I'm delineating that as just another little side note here. If you think a CPA is by default a tax planner, don't be so sure. There's a huge difference and discrepancy between that and even more and what your needs are and who's really planning and preparing you for taxes and those aspects of life and business versus someone just taking numbers, throwing them on a return, and filing it for you. That there's a huge difference. So, segue back to the conversation at hand of treating the cause. The symptoms were all those other things. I was not addressing the cause. And I'm here today to hopefully inspire you because right now, through this process, I hope, beyond just financially, I hope that you're thinking of where are you delaying a decision that is costing you. It's costing you in some fashion. And what I've done today, now I want to fast forward because here's the opportunity for you. As of today, right now, in 1 week, I've had everything assessed. I've had a couple different phone calls that I didn't have time for, that I made time for, right? Don't delay. I've started with a new organization. We've got so many things underway and updated. Everything is a process, plenty of support. And yes, am I paying for it? Yes, I am. However, on the other side, what is it worth to have your things buttoned up, know where you stand, not lose the sanity piece of all the uncertainty and all those different emotions that come with it of not knowing what your numbers and not knowing where you stand, not knowing where you stand even with Uncle Sam is a possibility. I'm a long way from that. But for me, and where I'm used to operating, it may as well have been one of the stories that you hear where somebody didn't pay their taxes for years and got themselves in big trouble. That was not me. But it felt much the same based on the standard in which I operate. And that is really the crux of this whole thing. I allowed my standard to gradually lower, and I delayed. And every time I delayed, I lowered and lowered and lowered the standard that I was willing to accept, that in turn cost me in real terms in my life. It took me away from family at times. It took me away, again, mentally and emotionally. There's so much in that. So my question to you, when I go to wrap this up today is, where do you need to stop delaying? Like there's some area that you need to treat the cause and you know it. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a DC to know this. So if you're a DC, is it in your business? Is it in the practice? Is it with a team member? Is it at home? If you're a stay-at-home person, where is it? Like, what are you continuing to not address with your spouse? What are you not addressing with your kids? What are you not addressing with your lawn care? What are you not addressing with a delivery service? What are you not addressing? And maybe, just maybe, if we're going to play this game, where are you not addressing the cause with you? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you doing the things necessary to show up in the way that you want to? So this could go on and on and on. But I hope today that you start addressing the cause with a simple action step. Choose a simple action step. You already know the area. don't delay, because I'm here to tell you it's going to cost you. And what it's going to cost you is the ability to learn daily, to live fully, and to lead boldly. And as I always say, closing the show, is to create the legacy, and for you to never forget that that legacy is being created right now off of what you do and don't do, whether you like it or not. Share this up with somebody that needs to hear it. Share it with a spouse, share it with a friend, share it with a colleague. Listen to it again. Give me any comments, any feedback, anything I can do to help you. I'll catch you next time. Thanks.